Hello, my name is Craig Smith, and I'm proud to serve as president of Tau Beta Pi. On behalf of the Unvention Planning Committee and the Executive Council, I welcome all of you to this first Tau Beta Pi Unvention. Under Article 9, Section 1 of the Tau Beta Pi Constitution, the convention is to meet annually. However, due to the travel and meeting restrictions in place across the world, it is not possible for us to meet in person. Under the provisions of Tennessee state law, where Tau Beta Pi is incorporated, an annual meeting of a nonprofit corporation cannot be conducted virtually. The Unvention has been planned to provide some of the same experiences you would encounter during a normal convention. During the next several weeks, you will have the opportunity to meet in districts, attend interactive chapter exchanges, participate in professional development sessions, a recruiting fair, and learn some of the association business being reviewed in committees. Tennessee law does allow for business that normally would be conducted at an annual meeting to be voted on by ballot. As such, the business being reviewed by committees will be reported to the Executive Council, which will meet at a later date to consider the committee recommendations and send these matters to voting delegates on a ballot in November. Additionally, elections for the Executive Council will be conducted by ballot in real time on November 7th. Fortunately, Tennessee law does permit the Executive Council to meet virtually. As a result, meetings of the Executive Council will provide the framework for the presentation of reports of officers of the association and committees, as well as the Executive Council elections. At this time, I officially call this meeting of the Executive Council to order at 2:06 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. I call on Rachel Alexander, Tau Beta Pi Secretary, to introduce the members of the Executive Council and take roll for this meeting.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will now officially take roll for this Executive Council meeting. C. Craig Smith, PE, serves as president.
I'm here.
I am Rachel K. Alexander, EIT. I serve as secretary and I am present. George J. Morales, Ph.D., serves as vice president.
Present.
Scott E. Fable serves as treasurer.
Present.
5 members serve as counselors, including Stephen L. King Monroe,
Present.
Michael L. Peterson,
Present.
Russell W. Pierce,
Present.
George Youssef,
Present.
Mena M. Youssef, Ph.D.
Present.
In addition, Executive Director Curt Gomulinkski serves as a non-voting member of the Executive Council.
Present.
Mr. President, there are 9 voting members of the Executive Council present and none are absent. 1 non-voting member is in attendance. A quorum for the conduct of Executive Council business is assembled.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. I would like to note that we have numerous guests attending this meeting. Thank you for joining us. While you will not have an opportunity to debate or make motions during the Executive Council meeting, you're welcome to use the questions and answers feature in Zoom to pose any questions. A member of the Unvention planning team will manage the incoming questions and respond or forward them to the Executive Council to address. At this time, we need to approve the agenda of the Executive Council meeting. An agenda for the order of business has been prepared, was included on the Unvention website, and is on page 5 of the Unvention program available online. I move to adopt the agenda as presented.
I second.
All those members of the Executive Council in favor of adopting the agenda as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and the agenda is adopted as presented. The next item of the agenda is a report of the Credentials Committee. Article 9, Section 4 of the Tau Beta Pi Constitution charges the Executive Director to appoint a committee to examine the credentials of the voting delegates. At this time, I would like to call for a quorum report from the Executive Director Gomulinkski, who serves as the chair of the Credentials Committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. Article 9, Section 3 of the Constitution defines the voting members of a convention as one delegate from each collegiate chapter and alumni chapter, the council members, the executive director, the program directors as defined in the Constitution, and one director per district. Article 9, Section 4 of the Constitution defines the quorum for a convention as the representatives of a majority of the collegiate chapters. Obviously, this is not a convention, it is the unvention. But as President Smith noted earlier, Tennessee law allows business that can be conducted at an annual meeting to be conducted by ballot. As such, it's important to note the number of members who will be entitled to vote during the Executive Council elections on November 7th and the ballot to be issued in November. With 250 collegiate chapters, 126 collegiate chapter voting delegates constitute a quorum. Final registration in the HUVA application is still incomplete, but as of 1:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, there are 9 executive counselors, including the executive director, 3 program directors, 14 district directors, 24 alumni chapter voting delegates, and 198 collegiate chapter voting delegates. A total of 240 voting delegates are registered, and a quorum for the conduct of convention business by ballot is registered. This concludes the report of the Credentials Committee.
Thank you. At this time, I have the privilege of presenting the President's Report. Founded in 1885, this is the 135th year of Tau Beta Pi. What an extraordinary year it has been, and it's not over yet. When I began my term as president on January 1st, I envisioned a calm year of steady achievements within the Executive Council. That seems a quaint notion now. The state of the organization is good, surprisingly so, given the circumstances. There are 250 active collegiate chapters. There are 46 active alumni chapters. 2 new collegiate chapters were installed: Arkansas Beta at the University of Arkansas Little Rock and Texas Xi at the University of Texas at Dallas. 1 new alumni chapter, Albuquerque, was installed. 2 inactive alumni chapters, Mid-South and El Paso, were reactivated. 3 petitions for new chapters have been received that require inspections in the coming year. 1 school, Georgia Southern University, was inspected, and its petition is being considered at this unvention. 1 member was expelled posthumously. As the COVID-19 pandemic unfolded, the Executive Council monitored the developments across campuses nationwide. The Executive Council did not overreact nor underreact. In March, we reluctantly directed the remaining district conferences to pivot to online events, postpone until fall, or cancel altogether. All Engineering Future sessions were canceled. All Tau Beta Pi sponsored travel was suspended. The council deliberated carefully and felt these actions were warranted and timely. We did receive criticism from a number of members regarding these decisions. Subsequent developments proved out. Given the restrictions on in-person meetings on most campuses, the initiation ceremony had to pivot to an online event. Ed Davignon, Director of Rituals, and many others worked hard to develop and perfect an online ceremony that embraced the necessity of change while preserving the tradition. It has been used by 166 chapters, resulting in 2,308 new members. The programmatic successes of the year were focused primarily in 2 areas: governance, and finance. Many of the policies that were devolved from the Constitution and bylaws revision in 2017 remained to be issued for review and use. Headquarters, in cooperation with the Executive Council, developed a process to manage the handling of those many documents. The process engaged a broad audience, including the full Executive Council, headquarters leadership staff, the Student Advisory Board, program directors, and others when appropriate. The Governance Committee and headquarters staff conducted a diligent effort to moving the policies through the process and delivering them to the full Executive Council for adoption. 18 of the 19 constitutionally obligated policies were completed. The remaining policy, the Trust Investment Policy, is pending review by the new expanded Trust Advisory Committee. An additional 59 policies were processed and adopted, further bolstering the policy catalog in several areas. Numerous financial changes were achieved in 2020. The Trust Advisory Committee reforms begun in October 2019 were completed in 2020. The committee now has 5 members versus the previous 3. 1 committee member rolled off and 3 new members were recruited and appointed. Members serve 3-year terms and are limited to 3 consecutive terms. These new members and dynamic turnover of membership ensure diverse perspectives and broad financial business awareness. Additionally, the Executive Council authorized the Trust Advisory Committee to identify an active trustee to assist in the management of the Tau Beta Pi Trust. This effort will continue in the coming year. The Executive Director filled an open position, the Director of Development. Sherry Jennings-King, the Major Gifts Officer, agreed to serve in this expanded role. This achieves a synergy between the 2 arms of fundraising, major gifts and annual giving. This is a crucial development. For many years, Tau Beta Pi operated at a deficit, an artifact of a complex funding profile with many funds restricted for specific use and not available for general operations. The trust spending guide was 5%, averaged over 4 years. However, the 5% guide was routinely exceeded. The restricted versus non-restricted funding stream resulted in the deficit being made up from the unrestricted funds, artificially creating an even larger deficit for the smaller unrestricted pool. The majority of the 5% guide was routinely devoted to scholarships and fellowships, thus underfunding other deserving programs. In 2020, the Executive Council authorized a phased reduction of the spending guide to 4.5%, enacted over a 5-year period. Moreover, the period over which the average is calculated was increased to 7 years versus the current 4 years. Over time, these 2 reforms will stabilize and ultimately improve the organization's finances to a healthy, financially conservative position. The tangle of restricted and non-restricted funds was revisited. It was discovered that some funds that were considered restricted were not, or had been so designated by the Executive Council of that time, and the restriction could now be reconsidered. As a result, over $5 million can potentially be released from the restricted designation. Funding of scholarships and fellowships will be reevaluated to provide effective funding of those important programs, but to also devote necessary funds to other valuable and productive activities. For example, Engineering Futures, the district program, and the convention. I'm compelled to remark on the societal unrest across the country, originally triggered by the death of George Floyd while being brutalized by police during an arrest, but subsequently morphing into widespread disruptions associated with inequalities across racial and class lines. Again, the Executive Council carefully monitored these developments. It became clear that a statement from the organization was necessary. The Executive Council deliberated and authorized a message to be crafted and sent to the entire membership by email. As with the cancellations, this too generated some negative responses from some members, but the preponderance was supportive. In that statement, the Executive Council made a commitment that has proven difficult to achieve. The Council envisioned and pledged to host an event offering safe space for members to share their stories and experiences. Paralleling psychotherapy techniques, the vision was to foster open discussions and allow for a catharsis and some measure of comfort from shared experiences. However, as resources were assigned to this effort, obstacles emerged. Discussions were held with several companies that specialize in large-scale online events focused on sensitive topics like race and inequality. The proposals were too ambitious, too expensive, or both. Eventually, a resource was identified that resonated with the intent. Consequently, a change of intentions emerged. In addition to hosting an event as originally intended, an additional goal is to begin and foster a program that endures, a program that persists and becomes a thread in the fabric of the organization. Not a module or a training class, but rather an ongoing discussion leading to improved racial and social awareness. In short, the ambition will be to provide the vocabulary and awareness in which issues fraught with racial and social disparity can be openly discussed calmly and without conflict. Based on some of the email received in response to the announcement and subsequent communications from some members, this vocabulary is sorely needed. Let us heed the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and strive for a community where all are judged by the character revealed in their actions rather than the color of their skin, their religion, sexual orientation, or any other societal demarcation. Please join me in future activities of this program as it emerges and matures in the coming year. Although no one can assure it, I hope to join you in Knoxville, Tennessee for the 2021 annual convention. This concludes my report. At this time, I call on Scott Fable to present the report of the treasurer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Hello, Executive Council members and assembled participants in the audience. My name is Scott Fable. I'm the treasurer this year on the Executive Council. And the primary activities of the treasurer are to chair the Executive Council's Finance Committee and serve as a liaison with our Trust Advisory Committee, or TAC. Along with the EC Finance Committee, the treasurer is responsible for the review of the annual budget and our annual financial audit. As President Craig Smith mentioned in his report, since the 2019 convention, the Executive Council's Finance Committee has worked to expand the TAC, enact a more sustainable spending rate for our more than $25 million in our trust investments, and help the Executive Director refresh our reporting and fund allocation descriptions to make it easier to monitor our finances. And he explained that at length. So one thing I wanted to add was that in recognizing that the pandemic has reduced or eliminated employment opportunities for our collegiate members this summer, for many of our collegiate members this summer, the Executive Director and our Director of Development highlighted the Taubé Pi Student Assistance Fund as a way to help student members in financial need. The Student Assistance Fund offers grants, not loans, but grants to students that may not be able to stay in school without additional assistance. We set a goal of awarding $100,000 in grants and publicized this opportunity to student members across Taubé Pi. And with the help of our Director of Scholarships and Fellowships, Holly Stedman, we quickly assembled a group of volunteers to review the applications and are moving quickly to meet the strong demand for this program. So given the impacts of the pandemic, between now and the end of December, the Finance Committee and myself will work with the Executive Director to balance the revenue and expenses budget for the current 2021 fiscal year. We plan to update the guidelines for long-term support for our scholarships, fellowships, and other programs with an objective to ensure that we can continue to support Taubé Pi programs and our members well into the future. Thank you very much, and this concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Taubé Pi. Taubé Pi is fortunate to have one of its members, Sherry Jennings-King, to serve as Director of Development. I ask Mrs. Jennings-King to report on the status of our development activities at this time.
Thank you, Mr. President. I've only got about 5 minutes to share a lot of information, so let's dive in. These are the 3 areas I'm going to be talking about. Each year, when I make my presentation to the national officials on Wednesday night before our regular convention starts up, I hesitate to bring out my crystal ball and make predictions for the future. Instead, I provide an accounting on what has happened thus far and then defer any predictions, noting that we will know best how everything will play out on January 1st. This year, with the response to the pandemic and the need for many staff members to work from home and alternate going into the office, it became common for gift entry to lag by about 3 weeks or more, thus distorting our typically prompt work in this area. That said, things have definitely improved over the last few months. The numbers you see on your screen are current through September 2020, and please forgive this partial snapshot. I've also included a portion of the numbers, mainly the totals and counts for 2019, for a month-to-month comparison. If you would like to take a quick screenshot or would like for me to email you this presentation so you can look more closely at the numbers, please reach out. My contact information is included at the end of this presentation. Annual fund response from our donors at the beginning and through the continuing months of the pandemic has been strong. And for that, I would like to thank everyone who has stepped forward to help us out as we scrambled to adjust to our new normal. Last year was a good year for us, and currently we are tracking about $100,000 ahead. As we enter the last quarter, I expect to see the same strong support. That said, I doubt we will reach the same total as last year because in December 2019, we received a $620,000 bequest that skewed up that month's numbers considerably. As a year-end push for annual giving, Tau Beta Pi will participate in Giving Tuesday on December 1st. And while we have participated in this day of giving in the past, this year we are making more of a concerted effort, including a direct mail piece to young alumni from the classes of 2016 through 2020, as well as messaging through social media. While we understand that this is a difficult time for many to give, particularly young alumni, we are hoping that they may consider supporting us with a small gift if they are able to show their support financially. Our student advisory board has been particularly helpful as they have provided guidance for this effort and came together to record a thank you video to be sent to our participating donors in December. One task I have taken on this year is varying our communications with donors. It's been fun doing a lot of the video thank you notes, but I'm also looking more closely at what we do with print and social media. We are using a lot more color and trying to make things visually striking, something that really gets your attention. Major gifts is one area that has taken a considerable hit since the onset of the pandemic. Around this time each year, we usually have around 17 to 20 gifts in support of our chapter endowment initiative, and many of these gifts are made due to my work traveling across the United States and visiting with our donors. The travel portion of my work has completely halted, and we are currently only at around 9 new chapter endowment initiative gifts so far this year. Many thanks to those who have stepped forward at this higher level of giving, including Alan Dousman, who just made a gift recently within this past week. Each year at convention, I highlight the chapters that are fully endowed along with those who made it possible, and I'm going to quickly scroll through these so you can get an idea of where we stand. Lastly, I want to mention our work around planned giving. Due to the ruling that individuals do not have to take the required minimum distributions this year, we decided to hold off on sending out our annual information sheet about these gifts and replaced it with a new one that speaks directly about gifts through wills and estates. It is my intention that this will become an annual mailing for the association. That concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, please get in touch. Thank you.
Director of Development. Curt Gomulinkski serves as the Executive Director of Tau Beta Pi. I call on him to present his report.
Thank you, President Smith. Good afternoon, or morning for those of you on the West Coast, to all my fellow Taubates gathered around the world as part of this Unvention. It is my privilege to provide you all with an update on the state of the association this year. Today, I'm going to briefly provide an introduction to the structure of the association, how you can find the official copy of my Executive Director's report, touch on the status of membership in Tau Beta Pi, and describe the finances of the organization. You may have seen our organization chart before, but I want to call attention to a couple of important points, given that we aren't meeting in person this year. The convention serves as the supreme governing body of the association. In a normal year, the delegates from the collegiate and alumni chapters come together to determine the important business of the association and to elect the members of the Executive Council. The Executive Council then appoints members to help support the chapters and the mission of Tau Beta Pi. While there is no in-person convention this year, as President Smith noted, important items of business will be conducted by ballot, including the Executive Council elections on November 7th. Everyone loves organizational charts, right? While I don't expect you'll be able to read this in detail, the headquarters team consists of 19 full-time, part-time, and temporary team members here in Knoxville, Tennessee, to support the work of the association on a regular basis. While the COVID pandemic resulted in limited staffing at the actual headquarters office, we have leveraged technology to continue to support you, mainly from our homes, during this time. This is a recent photo of many of the headquarters team members gathered around the Tennessee Alpha Bent just outside our offices in Doherty Hall on the University of Tennessee campus. We sincerely hope you'll be able to join us and visit headquarters for the 2021 convention to be held in Knoxville, Tennessee in October of next year. I'm always humbled to stand in front of our members in my role as Executive Director. I have the distinct privilege of serving as only the fourth person to hold this role in Tau Beta Pi since Red Matthews took on the position of Tau Beta Pi Secretary 115 years ago. This is an important legacy to carry on to follow in the steps of Red, Bob Nagel, and Jim Frola. President Smith and Treasurer Fable already provided some highlights from the written Executive Director's report. I don't intend to repeat what they said or go through this report in detail. You can review the entire report on page 42 of the fall issue of the Bent magazine. You should have received it in the mail or in your inbox a few weeks ago. You can also find it on our website under About, Headquarters, or on the Unvention Committee information pages. I mentioned the Bent just now and wanted to mention to you an important way to support Tau Beta Pi and to stay connected. For students, your initial membership to Tau Beta Pi included a 4-year subscription to the Bent. I encourage all students and alumni without one to purchase a life subscription to the Bent. A subscription is only $95, and I challenge you to find such a good deal anywhere, or 4 easy payments on an annual basis of $25. If you would prefer just an electronic subscription, it's only $45. For recently initiated members, you can get up to a $12 credit on a life subscription by contacting Mike Brown, mbrown@tbp.org at Tau Beta Pi headquarters. The COVID pandemic had a substantial impact on membership last year. In a typical year, we see about 475 initiations during a year, and it only varies about 1% from year to year. This year, we saw only 439 initiations for a decrease of 7%. The number of new members dropped by 16.4% to 7,197. I'll touch on that more in a moment. While we do see a few chapters not conduct initiation sometimes, last year was a big jump from no chapters in 2018-19 to 8 in 2019-20. In addition, typically 25 to 30 chapters only have one initiation per year, but last year that number jumped to 80 because many schools did not conduct a ceremony in the spring. A disturbing trend of lack of interest in membership continued, unfortunately, with an increase to 72%. On July 31st, we were up to just over 609,000 total initiated members. On a good note, over 1,000 students had their initiations postponed during the spring term. Those candidates are starting to be initiated this fall and has driven early membership numbers higher than we've seen before. In addition, some chapters are reporting increased interest in membership with the shift to a virtual environment. As I noted, our membership numbers hit 7,197 last year. This is the lowest since 2000-2001, when 7,075 members were initiated. Just 5 years ago, we had a spike in membership where we topped 10,000 members for the first time in 20 years. While the pandemic circumstances present unique challenges, we need to do our very best to continue to work to improve our membership numbers and shoot for getting back to 10,000 members. There are many things you can do to improve membership on your campus. They include expanding recruitment efforts by describing member benefits and providing personal virtual outreach. Provide a positive membership experience. Ensure productive meetings, whether or not they're virtual or in person. Try to offer worthwhile activities when you can return to campus or activities you are able to conduct virtually. And importantly, learn about and engage with potential members. Work to enhance your image on campus when you're able to be back there. Wear and utilize insignia. And during your recruitment and initiation period, make sure to publicize Tau Beta Pi on your campus. Some of you may find improving membership to be a challenge during these times. I encourage you to leverage the many wonderful Tau Bates who can help you. Make sure to engage your existing officers and members for help. Sometimes they just need to be asked. Check with recently graduated chapter officers or other interested alumni for help and to answer questions. Your chapter's advisors are a wealth of information and knowledgeable about your chapter's history. Make sure to leverage them. District directors provide additional support for each region of the country. Reach out to them if you need assistance. The Student Advisory Board and its members are always willing to lend a hand. I'll talk more about them in a second. And last but not least, the headquarters team is always willing to provide assistance to our chapter members. On top of the support from members and headquarters team members, there are a number of resources for you to leverage to improve your chapters. Most importantly, make sure to utilize this opportunity over the next few weeks to participate in the interactive chapter exchanges. These are consistently one of the most valuable sessions offered at convention and are being offered at Unvention. You'll be able to learn from successful chapters, share your personal experiences and challenges, and identify ways to improve your chapter. Please don't miss out on these opportunities. We established a Google site last spring with resources for you to succeed. There is a video and resources about how to effectively run a chapter in a virtual environment. Information about the online initiation ceremony and the request form are available on the resource site. If your chapter needs help to collect initiation fees, Tau Beta Pi now provides the ability to collect initiation fees for your chapter using our store. Finally, we'll shortly be restarting our chapter chats to provide timely information to help support your chapter. I earlier mentioned the Student Advisory Board. This is a group of recent graduates and students who are available to help your chapter and provide advice. They work on several special projects, including chapter mentoring, an officer handbook, and developing a toolbox of resources for chapter officers. The SAB is one way you can stay involved after graduation. You can contact them at sab.officers@tvp.org or reach out to them on the Whova app or on our Discord channel. Another major area in the Executive Director's report is the finance section. I would like to take a few minutes to talk about our expenses, revenue, the alumni giving program, and our trust investments. Tau Beta Pi's normal budget is currently around $4 million. You can see a breakdown of the major expenses of the association. Obviously, this is not a normal year, and as Treasurer Fable mentioned, we'll be seeing major reductions in some of our expenses, and the Executive Council will be working to reevaluate the budget next month. Areas such as convention, district program, and engineering futures are particularly impacted by not being in person. On the revenue side of the house, approximately 3/4 of our revenue comes from two categories: donations and partnerships, and trust investments. Initiation fees, merchandise, convention attendance fees, the bent balance out the revenue. I want to take a little deeper dive into the donation and trust investment pieces. As I noted, donations play an important piece of our finances and help to keep the initiation fees low. In particular, unrestricted giving to our annual giving program plays an important piece. As you can see, last year, we received $1.79 million in unrestricted gifts. This was the highest amount in actual dollars received, but when accounting for inflation, we still have some room to grow. When accounting for inflation, our highest level was the $1.36 million received when adjusted for inflation in 1986. I know as an organization, we can work back to get to that level. Another challenge we face is the reduced participation in the alumni giving program. We did see a small uptick in participation with 9,521 members supporting Tau Beta Pi in the 2019-20 academic year. However, this was only 1.56% of the total initiated membership. Our peak participation was in 1987, when 19,695 members donated to Tau Beta Pi, which represented 6.17% of members. It would be a significant challenge to get back to that level. However, we do need to work to improve our relationship with our alumni and help drive participation in our annual giving program. Our trust investments provide a valuable source of revenue for the association. Our trust investments are currently managed by PNC Bank, which serves as our trustee. They continue to perform their duties well, and we appreciate their work on behalf of the association. In addition to the trustee, we have a 5-member trust advisory committee, which President Smith talked about earlier, which provides strategic and tactical oversight of our investments. Through their excellent advice and strong market performance, I'm pleased to report that our trust investments topped $31 million on July 31st, 2020, a new record. This represents a $2.5 million increase over 2019, which was driven by strong gains on investments and designated gifts received for fellowships, scholarships, the district program, engineering futures, and the chapter endowment initiative. In addition, due to the cancellation of some in-person activities, the association did not need to utilize a portion of its normal spending guide, which resulted in money being left in the trust. The trust itself consists of 66 different funds allocated to different purposes, including scholarships, fellowships, the convention, the bent, and general program support. Don't worry, there won't be a test on this. This chart gives you an idea of the different categories of the trust investments. For example, fellowships in blue and scholarships orange consist of over 60% of our current investments. Growth in the chapter endowment initiative, purple, accounts for a new important piece of our trust investments and now represents over 12% of the trust. For an operations standpoint, green, only 5.8% is available to support headquarters and our general activities. As President Smith noted, we are looking carefully at the different restrictions placed on those donations to ensure that all the money available for operating the association is allocated appropriately. I hope all of you will become financial supporters of Tau Beta Pi. We don't ask for money from our student members. We know you have schooling to cover right now, but we hope you will consider supporting Tau Beta Pi after you graduate and enter the workforce. Your support of Tau Beta Pi helps make sure we can continue to provide fellowships and scholarships, support the Unvention and convention, make sure district directors can visit and train future officers, offer engineering futures sessions across the country, and continue to provide support from headquarters. There are many ways to support Tau Beta Pi. Annual donations are very popular at the $25, $50, or $100 level. Maybe one day you can become the next $1 million donor. Some people even support Tau Beta Pi through regular monthly giving, which is a great option. Once you start working, make sure to see if your company matches gifts. This is a great way to double or triple your support for Tau Beta Pi. Also, even as a student, you can help support Tau Beta Pi through Amazon Smile. If you designate Tau Beta Pi as your beneficiary, we will get 0.5% of your purchases. Finally, make sure to consider donating during Tau Beta Pi on Giving Tuesday. Giving Tuesday is December 1st this year. We're making a big push this year to advertise this event and encourage participation. Special matching opportunities will even be available for first-time and continuing donors on Giving Tuesday. Make sure to publicize this on social media and share with people about your enthusiasm and interest in Tau Beta Pi and the value it provides. Make sure to check out your appeal letter or email in the coming weeks for more information. Finally, I encourage all students to stay engaged as alumni and those alumni in attendance to stay involved or maybe even get involved again. At the local level, alumni chapters are always looking for additional members, leaders, and participants. If there isn't an alumni chapter in your area, we can work with you to help get one going. You can also stay involved as a graduate student or alumnus or alumna member at the collegiate chapter level. Sometimes they even need more advisors. At the association level, we're always looking for additional district directors and engineering futures facilitators. Perhaps one day, you might even serve on the executive council. On behalf of the headquarters team and the membership, thank you for your support of Tau Beta Pi. Mr. President, this concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Executive Director. During a regular convention, the Executive Council appoints a permanent convention chair to preside over the business meetings of the convention. While these meetings of the Executive Council as part of the Unvention are not convention business meetings, we would like to continue the long tradition of having a member serve as the chair during these meetings. Article 14, Section 7 of the Tau Beta Pi Constitution lists the current edition of Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised, as our parliamentary authority. Section 47, paragraph 13 of the 12th edition of Robert's Rules permits the Executive Council to appoint a temporary presiding officer during these meetings. I move that Ron Hickling, longtime convention chair, to serve as the presiding officer during these Unvention Executive Council meetings.
George Youssef, second.
All those members of the Executive Council in favor of appointing Ron Hickling as the presiding officer of the Unvention Executive Council meetings, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, please signify by saying no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and Ron Hickling is appointed as the presiding officer for the remainder of the Unvention Executive Council meetings. I yield the floor to my friend Ron.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you to the members of the Executive Council for this opportunity. At this time, it is in order for a short recess. Please do not disconnect from the Zoom meeting during the recess. We'll take a 10-minute recess until I show 11:57 a.m. Pacific time, so that would be 2:57 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So we stand in recess. Okay, the 10 minutes having expired, I call this Executive Council meeting back to order. The next item of business is the Unvention Orientation. It's my pleasure to introduce Executive Counselor Dr. Mena Yusuf and the Unvention Planning Task Force Chair to provide the orientation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Welcome to the Unvention Orientation. This is definitely not taped at 3:27 a.m. I'm sorry, I forgot about the time zones. This is definitely not taped at 3:27 a.m. Eastern. I'm sure you're saying to yourself, but Minna, we've seen this orientation presentation before. And I will say, surely not. You will then remember the presentation I've given, and to that I will say, these are not the presentations you're looking for. With that, let's begin. As of this morning, we have 278 members on Discord, 1,752 messages sent Whova, 891 attendees registered, and countless hours contributed by volunteers and HQ. Over 35 members of Tau Beta Pi and HQ staff have worked tirelessly to bring you Unvention. I would like to take a moment and acknowledge the hard work and effort put forth by each team member. They have worked their 9-to-5 jobs and continuously showed up to almost daily meetings for over 6 weeks. Team members created this program, edited videos, advertised events, solicited speakers, participated as speakers, set up the event website, and I've run registration for this event. Thank you, team. Usually at convention, we honor our association award recipients. We are releasing a video to honor each recipient's achievements on Monday, October 19th. Please head over to the event website or YouTube channel to watch. The McDonald Mentor Award celebrates excellence amongst Tau Beta Pi educators and engineers who have consistently supported the personal and professional development of their students and colleagues as excellent mentors or advisors. This year's McDonald Mentor is Dr. Dean Papajohn. The Outstanding Advisor Award recognizes the superior performance among Tau Beta Pi advisors. This year's award goes to Dr. Amy Kalita. The Tau Beta Pi Laureate Program recognizes Tau Beta Pi student members who outstandingly exemplify the spirit of liberal culture in engineering colleges, and to recognize gifted engineers who have excelled in areas beyond their technical majors. Mr. Kevin Patak has been named the 2020 Tau Beta Pi Laureate for his athletic achievements, and Ms. Natalie Turco has been named the 2020 Tau Beta Pi Laureate for diverse achievements. Natalie is also a volunteer at Unvention this year. Be sure to congratulate her if you're attending a session she is moderating. The Tau Beta Pi Distinguished Alumni Award recognizes alumni who have contributed to live up to the ideals of Tau Beta Pi as stated in our eligibility code, and to foster a spirit of liberal culture throughout the lives after their college careers. This year's recipients are Major General Jerry Holmes, Dr. Paul Polkowski, Dr. Ronald Rousseau, and Mr. Dale Zimmerman. So this year we're using Whova or Hova or Wahova. Regardless how you pronounce it, the experience is the same for all. Whova is an event hosting software. Many of you are familiar with this software as you've used it to attend this meeting. For others watching at home through the live stream, Whova is the app we'll be using to host this Unvention. It has both app and web browser access, and to view our sessions, download and join our online community. You can view the sessions directly on the Whova app or web browser, use the meeting ID and passcode, use an encrypted link. All these are via Zoom. Here's the web browser for Whova. When viewing your agenda, click on the event of interest. There should be a black screen inviting you to join the session when the session has started. You can also choose to use Zoom. On the bottom of the screen, there is the session information. There you will find the Zoom meeting ID and passcode. There's also an Add to My Agenda. Click this will prompt the system to ask you if you would like to add this to your calendar. If you click yes, this session will add to your calendar with the encrypted link. Here's the phone app screen. The meeting link appears at the top. You can also add to the agenda, and the same process occurs as previously described. We encourage you to add all your events to your agenda. This helps us plan and assign the correct number of volunteers to each session. Some sessions require small groups, and adding items to your agenda will let us know if we have to add more sessions or Zoom rooms. Since Whoville was not built for our organization, we took the initiative and problem solved as engineers. To get everyone's profile to display with their chapter and title, we'd like you to do the following. Under affiliation, add an affiliation. For the company, please put your initiating chapter or alumni chapter. And under the job title, please put your position, either president, vice president, or member, etc. If you are a visitor, please identify the school in the company section. Make sure your Tau Beta Pi affiliation is first in the list of affiliations so your profile will be properly displayed. For example, I have my current job as my second affiliation. One more thing, head to your location, scroll down in your profile and type D and the number of your district. Do not leave a space, make it one word. This way, people from the same district can find one another in the app. Although resume workshop is over, the resume review process continues. Rachel and Joey Alexander ran 2 workshop sessions and have organized our volunteers to review multiple resumes. Over 180 resumes were submitted with 80+ reviewers. Head to the website if you'd like your resume reviewed by a fellow Taubate. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Joey. This year, we're offering professional development for all attendees. There is a career and leadership track. We kick off professional development with the Judy and Ron Pasadena Professional Development session given by Dr. Bruce Linvall entitled Preparing for Deciding When to Go to Grad School by Keeping Options Open. John Sonsby, the District Director of District 3, will be giving a talk, Negotiating Job Offers. In a tag team session, District Director of District 5, David Cohen, and Executive Counselor George Yusuf will give their talk, How to Climb the Corporate Ladder and Negotiating Career Path with Friends. The District Director of District 11, Christina Harrison, will give a presentation entitled Interview Like a Pro. Each session has a Q&A following their talk. Note the session on the 25th will run on a parallel track with the leadership track. But don't worry, each professional development will be replayed with a live Q&A on November 1st, 3rd, and 5th. The leadership track is up next. Taubate David Ayuda will be presenting the talk, Reaching Your Goals. Dr. Sally Stedman is our Director of Fellowship, and she will discuss graduate fellowships to our attendees. District Director of District 8, Teresa Hutton, will be presenting the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Each session has a Q&A following your talk. And again, each professional development will be replayed with live Q&As on November 1st, 3rd, and 5th. We are also offering a virtual career fair. It will occur October 22nd and 23rd from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern. Please download the app Career Fair Plus and search for our career fair using Tau Beta Pi. You can additionally upload you or your chapter's resume to the resume book available on the Tau Beta Pi website. You will have both app and browser access. There will be individual meetings, so you must register for a slot. There'll be multiple grad schools and companies. Don't forget to sign up for ICE. Our Interactive Chapter Exchange, or ICE for short, is a great opportunity for you to sit down with officers from chapters around the country to discuss the issues your chapter is facing, exchange solutions, and create new ideas. There are 2 parts to ICE this year at Unvention. The first are special topic Q&A sessions coming up this week on Monday and Tuesday. For these sessions, we had 7 chapters from across the country record a video with their answer, How did your chapter adapt to COVID? These videos are already available on YouTube for you to watch and learn, even if you're not coming to the Q&As. At the Q&A session, you'll get a chance to talk with representatives from those chapters. Each session has a different group of chapters, so look at who will be attending. For alumni chapters and advisors, we have Q&A sessions for you too. 5 alumni chapters made videos, and there are 2 Q&A sessions. Advisors are having a forum instead of Q&A. All you have to do is show up, no prep work needed. The second aspect of ICE is the ICE workshops. These are a week from now, on Wednesday the 28th and Thursday the 29th. ICE workshops are an interactive session where you'll break up into small groups with members from all over to discuss problems and brainstorm solutions. We ask that each of you sign up using your My Agenda for at least one ICE workshop, and please try to do it by October 25th. Based on the RSVPs, excuse me, based on the RSVPs, we'll be giving out different meeting links so you can talk with people who can help you the most. Advisors and alumni, there's a separate ICE workshop for you too, so don't miss out. Here's the schedule for the student ICE, special topics, and ICE workshops. The same is true for the advisor and alumni ICE. Please look at your schedule and register for these ICE sessions. This year at Unvention, we have 5 committees doing association business. Program Review will review and recommend action on an appeal from North Carolina APLA for their computer science curriculum. Petitions will review and recommend action on the petition for a chapter at Georgia Southern University. Rituals will review and make recommendations regarding changes made to the ritual to allow virtual initiations. Financial Affairs will review past rates and recommend allowable delegate expenses for the 2021 convention. The Awards Committee is a little different. They will select the winner of the R.C. Matthews Outstanding Chapter Award, the R.H. Nagel Most Improved Chapter Award, and the J.D. Frolam Most Improved Membership Award. From September to October 23rd, the Awards, Financial Affairs, Petition, Program Review, and Ritual Committees met. They are going to present an initial report on Saturday, October 24th at the second EC meeting. Excuse me. All committees will report with the exception of the Awards Committee, which will present their decision at our final Executive Council meeting. There'll be an open house session for Financial Affairs, Petition, Program Review, and Rituals for Talbates to ask questions for the committee. These will be on Monday, October 26th and Tuesday, October 27th, with a session from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern each day. This year, we have 4 candidates running for the EC. They are Scott Fable, MingDe Lin, Thomas Pinkham, and Joan Sciacca. Their platform statements were released Monday on October 12th on our YouTube channel and event website. Their recorded Q&A sessions will be released this Monday, October 19th. There'll be multiple opportunities to ask candidate questions. We've scheduled Zoom Q&A sessions in early November. At the next EC meeting, they each will be giving a talk discussing their platform. Many opportunities exist for you to connect via Discord and Whova. Discord has the link up when you register and you'll be able to join our server. And Whova has multiple conversations going on now. Check out the t-shirt and hoodies with the Unvention logo. Orders close on October 31st. Following this meeting, there will be a virtual meet and greet per attendee type. You'll be hearing this information again. We really like to hit the point home. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Yusuf. Next up, I'd like to call upon Lauren Sweat, the District 1 Director, who will introduce our featured Unvention speaker, Jenna Jambeck, Ph.D., Florida Alpha, 1996.
Dr. Jenna Jambeck is the Georgia Athletic Association Distinguished Professor in Environmental Engineering in the College of Engineering, Director of Circular Materials Management in the New Materials Institute at the University of Georgia, and a National Geographic Fellow. Unfortunately, Dr. Jambeck was not able to join us live during the Unvention, but she prepared some remarks that she wanted to share with all of her fellow Talbates.
Hello, fellow Tau Beta Pi members. It's so good to be with you. My name is Jenna Jambeck. I'm a professor of environmental engineering at the University of Georgia and also a National Geographic Fellow. I know we all wish we could be together in person this year, but the organizers, who I'm so honored have invited me, they've done an amazing job of putting together events and meetings over this next week. And so I'm hoping to give you a little talk today to inspire some of your meetings and times over the next week. And I'm going to try to get my video on there as well. And so you can see me and the PowerPoint. There we go. So in 2014, I found myself in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. It was nighttime, it was raining, it was high winds and high waves, and Captain Emily Penn said, "Jenna, shine your torch," which was my flashlight, of course, "on this sail. I need to see if it's ripped." And I did, and luckily it wasn't, and we made it through that night and all the subsequent nights on this many-day journey, 19-day journey crossing the Atlantic Ocean. And we had two purposes on this journey. One was to study plastic pollution in the ocean by trawling the surface water and counting the plastic that we found. And the other was to promote women in underrepresented disciplines, which we know, of course, engineering is one of those. It was an incredible experience, one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. But it was something that I will never forget and changed my life forever. So I highly encourage you to get outside of your box personally and professionally and see what it can do to change your life. I'd like to think about my time now at the University of Florida. That's where I joined Tau Beta Pi, and I had an amazing time with that group and the organization. There's me in the upper left-hand corner with my Gator Engineering shirt. And I think two things that I remember, one would be polishing my bent for many, many hours and working on that. And the other was really the service that we got to do. The service was very important to me, and that has remained something that's been important to me throughout my career and even through my work, thinking about not only just doing my work, but how can I communicate that work and continue to make a positive impact around the world. And I've had extensive travels, not only with the university, with National Geographic, but also working with the State Department as an international informational speaker as well. So what is my work? Well, my work really is focused right now on plastic pollution. I have worked in solid waste management and research for 24 years, but the last 19 have really seen me focus on this marine debris issue, which we now really know as plastic pollution. Well, why has it become a focus on plastic? Well, if you think about our lives would be very different. And I think right now we can't even imagine our lives without plastic. So as of 2017, our research shows that we had produced 8.3 billion metric tons of the material, really an incomprehensible number. So if you think about 80 million blue whales, we can't even comprehend that as well. And that's projected to be a cumulative 34 billion metric tons by 2050. Because about 40% of plastic is made for single-use items and packaging, that's what we interact with a lot every day. 6.3 billion metric tons had become waste by 2015. Now, we had only recycled 9% of that on average globally, which meant 12% has ended up, 12% incinerated, and then that means about 79% has ended up in our landfills or the natural environment. Our research published in Science in 2015 was the first time we ever made an estimate on how much might be reaching the ocean. Before that, people had been out looking in the ocean and the ocean and other areas sort of around the world looking for plastic and finding plastic really everywhere we look. Sometimes before we get to a place like a depth in the ocean, we find plastic has gotten there first. And so these pink circles are actually concentrations of samples that were taken floating on the ocean surface, where only about 5% of less of what we estimate is going into the ocean every year is found floating on the surface. We also now know it's in our air, it's in our sea ice, as I said, pretty much everywhere we look. The green here are the estimate of what we find mismanaged on land and ending up in the ocean. And that was some of our work that was published in 2015, which estimated about 8 million metric tons, which is about a dump truck of plastic every minute going into the ocean. The yellow here are shown the riverine inputs, and we now know rivers are basically act as a conduit for plastic to get into our global ocean. Other work that I have done globally, which I think we want to think about here and how this impacts sort of our engineering infrastructure, is the export of plastic scrap around the world. This was something we couldn't take into account in that original work, and people brought up what happens to that. So yes, some of the countries that had a lot of plastic mismanaged waste, how much of that waste was actually coming from other countries? And so we took a look at that, and because we switched to single stream recycling within the US and other places in the late 90s, and also there was a promotion for trade of this material from the World Trade Organization, we saw about half of our recycling needing a secondary sort and materials all going to China. At the end of 2017, with China putting import restrictions, that all changed and had a huge cascade impact back onto us within the US and other higher income countries around the world that were typically exporting materials either to China or other lower income countries. And this has had really this economic impact on our recycling and really made us think about what do we need to do upstream to change the system. So, but we've also now had the impact of COVID on our waste management system. We know that our waste generated at home has increased, right? So we're all either required to or needing to stay home. That's gone up 15 to 25%. Commercial waste, so not heading into work and not being able to go to restaurants and things, means that waste stream has dropped 16%. This has also posed an economic challenge. Besides some of the recycling impacts, communities are having to pay more for increased residential waste. Haulers are not making as much money because their contracts are already set for those payments, and then their commercial waste, where they would make a lot of money, are dropping. We're also now seeing PPE ending up in our environment and in our litter. Probably only in about a week after people started wearing PPE, we started to see it in our environment. And I'll talk about the tool that we used to see that data later. About 2 weeks ago, we were able to publish another paper in Science. I did not lead this paper, but participated in it. And this is a new estimate. So this is actually plastic entering all aquatic environments. It's not just the ocean that really is impacted. And I've even seen in the desert, as I traveled to Jordan with the State Department and saw camels impacted by plastic in the middle of the desert. So it's really our entire planet. But thinking about entering all aquatic systems, so rivers, lakes, and the ocean, at about 2030, the estimate right now stands at about 20 to 53 million metric tons could be reaching those. And that's in a business as usual scenario with some reductions, but we really can see that to get that even just below the 8 that we originally estimated in 2015, we need to be much more aggressive with what we're doing to reduce these emissions. And this is a framework that I came up with in 2016 for my first time testifying to Congress, which was to the Senate. Since then, I've been able to testify again in 2019 and 2020 to our House of Representatives, which are incredible opportunities to communicate science to our policy and decision makers. But thinking about the entire value chain of plastic, if you look on the left-hand side, our daily activities and choices can impact this. And I know we think, well, does that really matter? But taken collectively, our research shows that it actually does. So it's not just your choice, but it's you and all your friends' choices. And there's a couple things I say about this. One, these choices are often luxuries. And so not everybody has access to clean water in the world. And so if you have that luxury, that's great, you can do that, but not everybody can. And the second is, if these choices are really hard, sometimes it's more expensive to try to go without plastic. It's challenging in terms of convenience. And if those are things that you're running into, who do you need to communicate that to? Is it industry? Is it companies? Is it government? That communication can be important for citizens to make. But we're also got all kinds of technology and engineering solutions. I have a collaborator at the New Materials Institute who's working on biodegradable polymers, thinking about how we can use technology to decouple waste generation from economic growth. We can reduce waste. You can have RFID embedded reusable containers. And then we need to think about our waste management infrastructure. And as engineers, we think a lot about that, and some last chance for capture, which I'll talk about later. But what we want to have is less input, of course, of plastic into our environment. So thinking about that engineering component that I talked about, our waste management infrastructure, this is something I stress within my classes as well. Besides sort of the technical ways of collecting and capturing and containing our waste, I think it's really important that we think about the context and culture. So those general terms really fit everywhere in the world, but notice they're not very specific, and that's because the context and culture is so important of where you are, what the situation is, what the stakeholders have, and what the knowledge holders really have within the community to offer for solutions. I think what's other components about engineering that are really important right now as we move forward in our future and in the world are thinking about our sustainable development goals. So oftentimes in our textbooks, especially for environmental engineering, these goals are brought up and how much of the engineering that we do intersects this, but it's much beyond environmental engineering in my book. And so even just the plastics that we do intersect many of these goals. But I think many of our engineering disciplines do as well. And so I had moved actually from thinking about these global models, although I still do, I would say, but my research focus has shifted. And this is because when we were having discussions about solutions related to this issue, a lot of people were bringing up something called the circular economy. And I'm sure many of you have heard of this, but this really, to me, quickly to define it is, can we be like nature? Can every output become an input? Can we really have the concept of no waste? And it sounds amazing, and I'm hopeful that we can reach this. But I think what I ran into is, as I traveled around the world, especially on some of these trips with the State Department, where I was talking to communities and decision makers and schools, and the general public within these places around the world, they would say, okay, Jenna, now we know this is a problem. What should we do about it? And so using their knowledge and their expertise, but thinking about the data that we could collect, how can we provide sort of this framework or this protocol so that they can be empowered with data to make their own decisions? And that's where the circularity assessment protocol was born, that looks at the input of a material, in this case, plastic and plastic packaging, how it moves through a community, how it's used, and then how it's collected, and then how much then ends up on the ground. So, and then what can we do about it, really? Because that part that ends up on the ground is so important into telling the story of what we can hopefully do to prevent that in the first place. So we use this protocol within the Sea to Source expedition with National Geographic along the entire Ganges River. Within India and Bangladesh, we had people from 5 different countries and, of course, representatives and collaborators from those 2 countries of focus. And we started in Bangladesh and went to 3 cities by boat. And then we had to fly over to India and travel by train, car, tuk-tuk, and our feet through 7 different communities within India, all the way up to the Himalayas. So it's very different at the start of this river system to the source. But, you know, the mouth is 7 miles wide. It's basically influenced entirely by the tides, and it really looks like the ocean in many ways. And then into the Himalayas, long, windy roads up into the mountains, and just very, very different scenery. This whole time we had a large team of about 18 people with at all times. This is behind the scene pictures of the boat on the river in Bangladesh. This is our interactions with the community, collecting data through the protocol that I talked about, trying to find out how people were getting their products, what kind of packaging was common, what kind of alternatives to packaging did we see, and also what kind of infrastructure was or was not there for managing waste. Again, when plastic was not around, which was not that long ago, especially in some of these communities, maybe only 20 years, this kind of waste management was not as impactful. But now that we have plastic within the waste stream, people are not even necessarily aware that it doesn't biodegrade in the same way as many of the other materials that they are used to, and causes the pollution issues, as we know, entanglement, ingestion, fragmentation into microplastic. We also measured microplastic in the water and in the air along this entire expedition. The other thing we did was really interface with those working on the ground with the waste management system. So there's a large informal sector all around the world, but especially within India, folks are collecting materials and products of value and then selling them to kabaddi wala or junk shops. And to me, these people are really the knowledge holders of what has value and why it has value. And so part of our research was to talk to these folks and understand better what it means to have value in these materials. And so part of what we also do, and I want to talk about, is citizen science, open data, really empowering communities with data. So we invented or developed, I should say, co-developed this app at the university. And this was originally sponsored by NOAA, but now we are working with National Geographic and Morgan Stanley. And this app is free and open. It's what we use to collect all of our data for research, but it also can be used by any citizen. And so it's very empowering, and we've had over 2.5 million items logged. And this is what the route looked like in terms of the data that we're collecting. We did go twice. So we went, this is just the pre-monsoon time, but we did go twice over that entire expedition throughout India. And the other thing that I think was really important, especially about when we went post monsoon season, was we held workshops. So people got to learn how to use the app Debris Tracker, and we interfaced with schools and students. And really, to me, sort of reaching out to this next generation is the key. And I also did this when I was in school myself, working directly with middle school students in after-school programs, especially to promote their entrance into science, technology, engineering, and math. And it's really an incredible opportunity to inspire the next generation. So I just wanted to say that, you know, my life has been much more adventurous than I ever imagined it would be. I have a great support of my husband and 2 kids as well. And I think thinking outside the box and being open to what your life can bring in is an incredible way to approach and take as many opportunities as you can to do work. And I think engineering is just an incredible way to open many doors. And I found networking with people especially. So exactly what you're going to be able to do here in your next sessions, where you're going to gather in some Zoom breakout groups, and I think network and potentially open up collaborations and really talk about what kind of change engineering can have in the world. And so I wish you all the best of luck and enjoy the rest of your meeting.
Our thanks to Dr. Jambeck for her timely and thought-provoking remarks to the Unvention. Next up on the Unvention schedule are the meet and greet sessions. These are sessions for collegiate chapter representatives, advisors, and alumni. Please refer to the Whova app for more information and the Zoom connection information. While these are scheduled to start at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, we will begin them early after a short 10-minute break. So plan to join us in about 10 minutes. Are there any further announcements from the Unvention Planning Task Force or the Executive Council?
And now, to give us some updates, is your very own Melissa Morris.
Welcome to the 2020 Tau Beta Pi Unvention. Here are some upcoming events. Unvention 2020 features ICE Special Topics, the Collegiate Edition. Monday, October 19th at 1 p.m. You can listen to some of your fellow chapters present special topics. At 8 p.m. Eastern, there will be a different set of chapters presenting. And then on Tuesday, October 20th at 5 p.m. Eastern, you will hear from yet a third set of chapters. Now remember, all of these sessions are free, so why not go to them all? Pick 1, 2, or 3. All times are Eastern. Unvention 2020 advisors, we have your back. We have forums for you as well. Monday, October 19th at 5 p.m. Eastern, Sue Hall, Pat Homan, Sandy Pitzak, and Bruce Devantier will be your host. On Tuesday, October 20th, 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern, Jim Hill, Laverne Fadley, Sally Stedman, and Kurt Rouser will be hosting your event. You can go to both and learn a lot. Unvention 2020 Alumni Edition, Monday, October 19th, 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern, San Francisco Bay Area, Research Triangle, Puget Sound, Pioneer, and Central Connecticut alumni chapters will be presenting. There will be an encore presentation of these chapters on Tuesday, October 20th, 5 to 6 p.m. There could be different questions, so why not attend both? Unvention 2020 presents to you the Judy and Ron Pasadena Professional Development Session with speaker Dr. Bruce Linvall. It will be Wednesday, the 21st of October from 1 to 2 p.m. and again 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern. The Unvention 2020 features a recruiting fair. Please download the Career Fair Plus app to attend. Graduation is coming soon, and so are those student loan payments, so time to get a job. Thursday, October 22nd from 10 to 5 Eastern, you can meet with companies and grad schools. And then again on Friday, October 23rd, there'll be time slots from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern for you to sell yourself to companies and graduate programs. Be sure to download the Career Fair Plus app and register. The second Executive Council meeting will be held Saturday, October 24th from 2 to p.m. Eastern. It will feature reports from directors, reports from committees, and Executive Council candidate speeches. We have 4 candidates for the Executive Council this year. Those candidates are Scott Fable, MingDe Lin, Thomas Pinkham, and Joan Sciacca. These candidates will be featured in a Q&A YouTube video being released on Monday, October 19th. I suggest you watch the video and become educated because you will be voting. Time to update your friends list and update your wardrobe. So join the Discord, download the app, make some new friends, and check out our t-shirts, sweatshirts, and apparel. Whova is where you can update your agenda, keep track of all the super fun agenda items to happen throughout the next coming weeks. And if you happen to miss one of the live sessions, don't worry, check out our recorded videos on YouTube.
Okay, any other announcements? Hearing none, I am going to declare that this meeting of the Executive Council stands in adjournment until Saturday, October 24th, 2020 at 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time.
Thank you, Ron.